All right, Cruise fam, we're back for episode 2 of Cruise News Takeover, where we bring you the chaos of cruising with a dash of sarcasm, a splash of sweet tea, and just enough salt to keep things spicy. And oh boy, do we have a wild one today. Hurricane Milton is currently stirring up trouble in the Gulf. And if you thought your biggest problem this week was deciding between the buffet or the steakhouse, think again.
Well, butter my biscuit and call me a pancake. It's gonna be one heck of a ride. Milton's got the Gulf churning harder than a blender at happy hour. And just like that time I tried square dancing on a lurching deck. It's a good reminder. If you're cruising during hurricane season, you best be ready for anything.
Yep, that's right. We're talking all the must-know tips for cruising during hurricane season. Spoiler alert, your poncho isn't gonna cut it. Plus, we've got a special message from our former boss. Y'all remember the Golden Boys from Carnival Cruising Podcastaways? One of them left us a little gem on Speakpipe. And you know I'm going to roast him for it.
Oh boy, this is going to be good. If it's who I think it is, he's about as predictable as Texas weather. And trust me, that's saying something.
Stick around, y'all. Hurricane Milton may be wrecking our cruise plans, but it's not going to ruin the fun we've got planned for this episode. We're breaking down hurricane cruising prep, taking on some wild rumors, and as always, dropping a few tips with a twist. And hey, if you survive this storm, maybe, just maybe, you'll survive one of Sam's stories.
Well now, you just hold on to your hats, folks. Ain't nothing worse than losing your cowboy hat to a gust of wind or a rogue wave. Trust me, I learned the hard way.
All right, Cruise fam, sit back, relax, and let's dive into the storm. Figuratively, of course. Well, Cruise fam, looks like Hurricane Milton is turning our cruise dreams into a guessing game. And Carnival's first move, they've gone ahead and changed up the itinerary for the Carnival Pride, which, might I add, isn't even cruising anywhere near the Gulf of Mexico, because apparently we're playing better safe than sorry on every coast.
Yeah, darling, that hurricane's stirring up more than just waves. Carnival's decided to pull a fast one on folks sailing out of Baltimore. Now, instead of that nice long stay in Bermuda, they'll be taking off 6 hours earlier. I reckon folks are going to be missing out on some extra rum punch time.
Yep, 46 hours in Bermuda instead of 52. And I know what some of y'all are thinking. 6 hours, Madison? Is that really such a big deal? Well, if you've ever had to wait for an open deck chair on a crowded cruise ship, 6 hours can feel like an eternity.
Ain't that the truth? But hey, better to shave off a few hours in Bermuda than get caught in a tropical storm. You know what I always say, ain't no sense sailing into a hurricane unless you're looking for an underwater rodeo. And let me tell you, Milton ain't the kind of rodeo you want to get tangled up with.
No kidding. But here's where things get really interesting. Carnival hasn't even announced changes for the Florida home ports yet. We've got ships leaving from Tampa, Miami, New Orleans, and more. But so far, crickets. Meanwhile, Royal Caribbean's already shifting things around like a game of musical chairs.
Sounds like Carnival's playing a game of wait and see. Kind of like when you know a storm's coming, but you're still sitting on the porch with a glass of iced tea thinking, it'll blow over. Problem is, when Milton hits, it ain't gonna be a gentle breeze.
Exactly. And the guests? Well, they're getting a little impatient, let's say. Apparently, Carnival's been holding off on these notifications just like they did with Hurricane Helene, and people aren't too happy about it. It's like we're all sitting in the theater waiting for the disaster movie to start. But nobody's pressed play yet.
Can't blame folks for wanting to know. Last-minute changes can throw a wrench in the best-laid plans. Kind of like that time I forgot to pack my boots. And trust me, walking through the ship in flip-flops ain't a look I'm proud of.
Ha! Well, at least if Milton decides to crash the party, folks are going to know eventually. For now, Carnival's telling everyone to sign up for text and email alerts to stay in the loop. Guess we'll just have to wait and see if Milton's going to take his show to the Sunshine State.
And if he does, You better believe there'll be more itinerary changes than a cat at a line dancing competition. But hey, that's all part of cruising during hurricane season. Ain't nothing like riding the storm out with a cocktail in hand and duct tape in your suitcase.
Stick with us, Cruise Fam, because we've got more stormy stories to tell, including a special message from one of the Golden Boys themselves. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after the break to see what Carnival Cruising Podcastaways has to say about this whole mess.
Well now, folks, let me tell you about a little something today. We have a very special sponsor, Cruising Swag. This is for all you cruise lovers out there. If you want to show off your love for the open seas, you got to check out cruisingswag.com. They've got the best cruise shirts and door hangers you could ask for. I'm talking top-notch gear to make sure everybody knows you're ready to hit the high seas in style. They got shirts with sloths, custom cruise shirts for your group cruises, and my personal favorite, ship-faced. Now, if that ain't enough to get you smiling, I don't know what will. And if you're like me and want a little extra flair for your cabin, their custom door hangers are the way to go. I've got one that says, "Gone to the buffet, be back later." Perfect for letting folks know where the important business is happening. So if you're heading on a cruise and looking to dress the part, or just want to spruce up your cabin door, head on over to www.cruisingswag.com. You'll be cruising in style, faster than a cowboy on a water slide.
All right, Cruise Fam, we're back from the break, and let me tell you, this next bit, it's got me excited. We've got a special treat. A Speakpipe message straight from one of the Golden Boys over at Carnival Cruising Podcastaways. Now, I know what y'all are thinking. Madison, you've already taken over the cruise world. What's left? Well, apparently they have some things to say about it. And trust me, you don't want to miss this.
Yeah, if it's who I think it is, we're about to hear something that's either sweet as molasses or as spicy as hot sauce.
Right. So without further ado, let's see what one of our favorite podcastaways has to say. Hit play.
How do you two have a podcast? What's going on?
Oh man, did y'all hear that? Trevor Shelby himself, one of the Golden Boys, wants to know how we have a podcast. Trevor, honey, I gotta ask, how do you have one? Because if you can wrangle Gary and Thomas every week, we're practically running a cruise ship over here with our show.
Sounds like Trevor's a little confused, bless his heart. Don't worry, Trevor. We got this under control. Just like I got my boots under control on formal night. But thanks for checking in.
All right, y'all, it's time for another round of Madison and Sam's tips with a twist. And today we're diving into a super important topic, cruising during a hurricane season. If you're hitting the high seas while Mother Nature's throwing some storms around, here's what you gotta know.
First off, folks, you gotta stay informed. That means talking to your vacation planner or travel agent regularly. If you're on Carnival, do yourself a favor and follow John Heald on Facebook. That man knows things before the clouds even roll in.
Exactly. And make sure you're getting the latest news directly. Head to your Carnival account or whichever cruise line you're with and double-check those text message alerts. You don't want to be the last person on board to know about an itinerary change. You'll miss out on all the fun, and maybe even the buffet.
Now, when it comes to getting to your cruise, get to the airport early. I'm talking earlier than usual. Ain't nothing worse than chasing your plane like it's a runaway bull, especially when delays are almost guaranteed. Speaking of, be ready for 'em.
Oh yeah, delays are practically part of the hurricane season package. But here's a big one. Get yourself some cruise insurance. It might not seem important until it is. Weather changes, plans get flipped, and having insurance means you're not left holding the bag if things go sideways.
And once you're on board, the best tip is to accept the changes. You might lose some port time or have a day at sea instead of on land. But don't let that ruin your trip. Go with the flow and focus on having a good time no matter what. It's like I always say, if life gives you rain, find a dry bar and make a toast.
Exactly. Remember, cruising's all about fun. Whether you're dodging hurricanes or soaking up the sun, just roll with it. And here's another thing. When you're packing for a hurricane season cruise, you got to think about flexibility. I'm not saying you need to bring a survival kit, but a few essentials will help. Keep some extra clothes in your carry-on in case your luggage is delayed. And don't forget your power banks for those inevitable airport delays where you're stuck playing Candy Crush until your flight finally boards.
And if you're like me, don't skimp on the snacks either. Ain't no sense getting hangry before your cruise even starts. Also, pack some good old duct tape. Not just for cabin fixes, but you never know when you might need a quick repair. Weather changes can surprise you in more ways than one.
Oh, duct tape, the cure for everything. And last but definitely not least, pack your patience. You might hit some rough seas or miss a port, but at the end of the day, you're on a cruise. Focus on the fun. Hit the spa, check out that extra show, or finally win at trivia night.
Yep, because the best tip I can give is this. A cruise is what you make of it. Don't let a little wind and rain mess up your mojo. Grab a drink, put your feet up, and enjoy the ride.
So there you have it, cruise fam. Prepare smart, stay informed, roll with the punches, and most importantly, have a blast no matter what. Because whether it's sunny or stormy, you're still cruising. All right, cruise fam, before we wrap things up today, we've got to revisit the epic ending of episode 1. Remember when we asked, if you were the cruise captain, what would you do? We had some wild scenarios, but let me tell you, y'all delivered. We got some great responses, but one special Speakpipe message really stood out.
Oh yeah, and I've been waiting to hear this one. If it's anything like the scenarios we threw at 'em, it's bound to be good. You know I love a good what would you do challenge.
Same here. All right, let's not waste any more time. Let's hit play and see what our captain for a day has to say.
Hello, is this thing on? Okay, hi there, Madison and Sam. This is Ted. You might know me from YouTube, where I talk about the superior Windstar cruises. Now, if I were the captain of a cruise ship like you asked in the last episode, well, I'd do things very differently. You see, Windstar is all about luxury and exclusivity. And Carnival, well, it's a little, how do I say this? Basic. So, if I were the captain and say a horde of rogue seagulls started attacking the buffet, I wouldn't be serving seagull wings like Sam suggested. No, I'd order the crew to prepare a special Windstar-style gourmet feast for the seagulls. Yes, you heard me. Nothing but the finest hors d'oeuvres would be acceptable. Caviar, foie gras, and maybe a splash of champagne, because even seagulls should experience the luxury of a Windstar cruise. And while we're at it, I'd be sure to handcraft tiny gold leaf-laden hats for the seagulls, because presentation is everything. You see, that's what makes Windstar different from Carnival. We're not just about surviving the chaos, we're about elevating it.
Okay, wait, hold on. Did Ted just say he would throw a gourmet feast for seagulls? With caviar and gold leaf hats? I don't even know where to start with this one.
Well, butter my biscuit and call me a fancy appetizer. Ted, you've outdone yourself. Caviar for the seagulls. I reckon my idea of serving seagull wings is looking downright practical right about now. I mean, I've heard of first-class service, but this is next level.
Yeah, I'm all for luxury, but I didn't know we were trying to make seagulls feel like they're on a Windstar cruise. Ted's got a vision, I'll give him that, but I'm still stuck on the tiny gold leaf hats. Who's going to be sewing those things, Ted? You?
You know, I bet Ted would be up there in the galley, personally handcrafting each little hat, making sure those seagulls get the full luxury experience. Meanwhile, the rest of us would be fighting for a dry spot on deck.
I guess that's the Windstar difference, huh? Instead of dealing with the seagulls, you just pamper them. Meanwhile, on Carnival, we're dodging dive-bombing birds trying to snatch our pizza. Honestly, Ted, I gotta give you credit. You've got more patience for those flying menaces than I ever would.
Yeah, I think old Ted's got a real soft spot for seagulls. And hey, if it keeps him away from my barbecue plate, he can serve 'em whatever he wants. Gold hats and all.
Well, Ted, if you ever captain a cruise ship, let us know. I'll pack my finest gown and a hat for the seagulls. All right, cruise fam, it's time for our favorite part of the show, If You Were the Captain. You know the drill. We throw you a completely ridiculous, off-the-wall scenario, and you tell us how you'd handle it. So here it is.
Now, imagine this. You're the captain of the ship, and suddenly, all the ship's towel animals come to life. That's right, every single one. From the cute little monkeys to the terrifying towel swans. They're roaming the ship, causing chaos, and trying to take over the buffet. What do? How do you restore order before those towel critters make off with all the dessert?
Yeah, do you negotiate with the towel animals? Do you lead a counterattack with a battalion of freshly folded towel lobsters? We need to know how you're keeping those critters in check, Captain. Drop us your answers, and as always, the more absurd, the better. All right, Cruise fam, that's a wrap for today's episode of Cruise News Takeover. We covered everything from Hurricane Milton to luxurious seagull feasts courtesy of our pal Ted. And remember, if you're cruising during hurricane season, stay prepared, stay flexible, and most importantly, stay focused on having fun, rain or shine.
Yep, 'cause no matter the weather, a day on a cruise beats just about anything else. And don't forget, if you were the captain with those rogue towel animals, we want to hear your wildest plans. I'm rooting for the towel lobster army myself.
Same here. So send us your Speakpipe messages, Cruise fam. We love hearing from you. And as always, don't forget to hit up www.cruisingswag.com for some cruise gear that'll have you looking sharp. Until next time, keep cruising, keep smiling, and stay salty.
Y'all come back now, you hear?